Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Life Health Show. I'm so excited to have another guest here who's just rocking the raw food diet and just share his story. Today, we're going to be talking to Daniel. Hello, Daniel. How you doing?
Great, Paul. Good to be here. How you doing?
Great, great. Daniel, before we get into your story, do you eat exclusively raw vegan now, or are you just eating some?
Yes,
How do you eat?
100% raw vegan. It's been 15 years and always looked at it as an experiment. If the experiment starts to fail, then I'll jump off the bandwagon. But it just keeps getting better and better every day, every month, every year. So I'm just
Wonderful.
like, yeah, I'm on the train.
Wonderful, man. So when you were growing up, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Santa Monica, California, and
Okay.
it was very much, I would say, on the healthier side, but still a standard American diet. My parents weren't really knowledgeable about food and nutrition, but they gave me a balanced diet. They made sure I ate my vegetables. I used to love orange juice growing up, but I ate all the stuff. From just burgers and pasta and just all the standard American things. Took me many years to kind of wake up to what food, the implications of food, more than just like what are you eating. It's you are what you eat, and that saying is rings true more and more every day that goes by in my life. I've seen the transformation happen, and yeah, I've come a long way.
So when did that first happen? So you're growing up eating the standard American diet. What compelled you to just realize there was a connection between what you're eating and your diet, and then what moved you
Yeah.
to make that change?
Yes. So I would say the last stop before that transition, I was living in Hawaii, playing music in a band in Hawaii on Oahu for 2 months. And growing up in LA, there's a lot of nature in LA, but I never really was exposed to it more than just going to the beach. I didn't really go on hikes. And so nature was kind of just the background for me. And then when I lived in Hawaii that summer, something shifted where I was going to waterfalls all the time and I was really noticing nature and noticing how good I felt living out there. And so when I came back to LA, I was like depressed. I was like, oh no, this is the worst thing. I got to live in Hawaii. I got to live in the jungle. Something shifted. And I just by chance ran into an old friend that I've known since kindergarten who I hadn't seen in many years. And he had been experimenting with raw food and yoga and meditation, all these
How
things
old did
that.
you say you were at the time?
So at the time I was 24 years old,
Okay, okay.
and I run into my old friend and we're catching up. He's like, "Let me buy you an almond milk." And he happened to be standing outside of Revolution, which was a raw food restaurant
Yep,
on
I
Main
remember it.
Street in
I
Santa
know it.
Monica.
Yeah.
And so I had no clue what that place was. I had no clue he was about to walk me inside there and it was going to change my life. And he says, "Let me buy an almond milk." And I distinctly remember picturing a glass of, 2% milk with almonds floating at the top. I had no clue what almond milk meant. I had no clue I was going to look at this menu and, sort of know what all these items on the menu are. I saw walnuts and I saw mushrooms and I saw, spinach, but I knew when I read like it was called like a Big Mac burger and it was made of walnuts. I was like, okay, I might as well be on the moon right now. I have no clue what's going on. And then I ate the food and I felt incredible. And something instantly in me realized, okay, if I think I know what food is, and now I'm realizing I have a lot to learn and no clue what food is, what other areas of my life do I think I know what that thing is? And I saw this as like the first domino that was gonna fall to really change many things in my life. Because at that time I was very lazy. I didn't have discipline. I wasn't really being successful in my music career. And I knew that was the only thing that I knew back then. I knew that I needed help. I knew that I needed role models. I knew that I needed to change my habits. And I knew that I needed to surround myself with people that had good habits. And so this friend that introduced me to it, he had been doing it for about 5 years, not 100%, but he was teaching me, okay, these are the good things, skip these, eat fermented foods, get lemon juice in there, try and eat more greens and fats and then sugars at first. And, now after years of cleansing, I can eat as much sugar, fruit sugar as I want. But early on, I think it's a good, I guess everyone's situation is different when they transition, but that was really the turning point. And I took me about 2 years from that moment when we had that first meal for me to learn and really get my bearings before I felt confident, like, okay, I can actually do this. And I would say the biggest turning point there was reading a book by David Wolf called The Sun Food Diet Success System. And the way he broke things down in that book made it so simple. He kind of made 4 categories. He said there's greens, there's fats, there's sugars, and there's superfoods. And the key is finding out, like, between those 4 categories, what's your ratio? And that might change seasonally. But once I started to think about what I was eating in those 4 categories, everything changed. And I realized I was eating way too much sugar and not enough greens at all and not enough superfoods. And I sort of flipped the pyramid on its head. And all of a sudden, everything changed. My cravings changed. I started feeling like cleansing was easier. I didn't feel as much of like the Herxheimer effect. When you do cleansing, you start to feel the symptoms of the things that are going away. I started to be able to get power through those because my body was getting the right ratio of fats to sugars to greens and superfoods. And so that really, got me started.
That's great, and I'm sure it helped. You were in at the time the easiest place in the world to eat raw foods because there was so many restaurants at that time and people doing it out there
Yes.
in California.
It's true. It was really a scene back then. So we're talking 2006 to 12 was like this sweet spot in
Yep.
LA when raw food was really it was a scene, like I imagine Laurel Canyon in the 60s. It wasn't quite that cool, but it felt like that. It felt that people really had this creative spirit in them, and raw food was the conductor to bring all these different creative people together: musicians, filmmakers, writers, actors, everything creative you can imagine. I met such a colorful array of people at this place, and all the raw food restaurants in LA at the time. There was probably at one point 4 or 5 different raw food restaurants, all just crushing it back then. And so I think that's a big part of it. People really, human beings, we thrive in community. We thrive with having, people of like-minded around us. And so that is one of the most biggest blessings of that time for me, is that I was not only excited and inspired to do it for myself, but I had so many people around me to learn from and to share information with. And, until you can teach something to someone, then you really haven't mastered it yourself. And so going into that place and talking to people and people saying, oh, well, I want to try it, but I don't really know. I feel this way or that way. And then me trying to, give them tips about how I do it. Really, I realized it's like in teaching them, I really started to master and refine and hone in on my own craft. And
Sure.
so I definitely recommend people, if they want to get into this, seeking out people that they can have as support, a mentor or a group of people that are, the Raw Food Meetup is a great one, which has a worldwide raw meetup element to it. And so wherever you are, get online, get with people, or get with people in your town, ideally, and really build a community around it, because that's the way the long run, the long game is really having a community of people until you really get your bearings. And now it's like, I'm so, far into this. It's like, I don't need to surround myself with only raw vegans anymore. But there was a time when that was really helpful and useful for me. And it really allowed me to find my own sort of strength in this. And now it's kind of just on autopilot.
Sure. So besides the obvious new outlook on life, what happened? Tell us about your body personally. Were you sick before? Did you get not sometimes not feel well? Did this change it? Like, what were the
Yeah.
physical changes?
Yeah. I know a lot of people, that's their motivation. For me, Looking back, I can see that I was probably at a turning point where probably some health issues were going to start to happen. But for me, it was actually all mental and it was all emotional. The biggest shift was towards the end of that 2 years that I mentioned, where I was sort of experimenting. I was totally vegan at that time, but I was going between some of the raw vegan places and then like what I call the junk food the junk food vegan places in LA. There was Real Food Daily and was Cafe Gratitude there? No, it wasn't there by then, but there was a bunch of places I'd go. And I started to pick up on some things in my life, these patterns where when I'd be eating raw more in the week, I'd have these great emotional, just like even keel situations in my life. And then I started to pick up on when I would eat cooked food, I felt more anxiety and I felt more emotionally like I was on a roller coaster. And I think because I was starting to cleanse my body and sort of narrow it down, I started to become really sensitive with how I felt after I ate everything. And it became obvious. It was just kind of hit me one day. I was eating this delicious vegan burrito. It had, seitan taco mix and delicious, delicious food. But I was like, I literally basically had a panic attack. And I realized just something in my brain, the dots got connected. And I realized, wow, when I eat raw, I'm a different person. I'm emotionally confident. I'm even keel. I have more energy to be creative. Being a musician, one of the most important things next to talent is having enough energy to do all the things that you want to do. And any kind of creative endeavor, I mean, even if it's not creative, energy is what allows you to be successful in life. And so I would say really my motivation was I knew that I was not being successful. I knew that I wanted to be. I had great ambition. And I saw this diet as an entry point to gaining more energy, being more balanced, and then, applying that in every aspect of my life. So it really came from that angle. I'm very lucky that I never had any health issues that I needed to navigate through. But a lot of people do that, and it obviously the two are related, right? You can't be creative or successful if you're sick and tired all the time.
Exactly. And what about, do you have family? Like, how they react to this, or do you have,
Yeah.
how'd your
Yeah.
friends and family react to this change, or did you not tell them
Yes.
just do it?
No. Well, it's funny. I laugh because I remember the naive part of me that thought everyone in my family is going to want to do this. They're going to see me and they're going to be like, oh my God, this is it. We're all going to do this together. And to my surprise, they all supported me. They could tell that they thought I was a little crazy, but they also could tell that it was coming from a really good place, and they supported it from afar, and I would share as much as I could. Really, initially, I really had this hope that my family would go vegan, because that was my first step before I went raw. And I just quickly learned, you can't control the outcome of what happens in life, and not everyone's on the same path, and that's okay. And it took me a few years to really accept that. And that's kind of just part of it, is learning to just be fully self accountable and not projecting onto anyone that anyone should do anything any way other than the way they want to. And then ironically, I find that when you are very accepting of everyone around you and the choices they make, that actually draws them in to be more curious, rather than when you're like, constantly kind of on them and trying to convince them to change. It actually has like an effect that pushes them further away. So that was a big lesson for me. I think that applies to everything in life. Um, Accepting of yourself first and foremost, and then accepting of others is a way of bringing people closer to you and not judging them for whatever choices they make.
Sure, sure. Well, what's your daily lifestyle, like your daily diet? Like, what time do
Yeah.
you normally get up? How often do you sleep? And how
Yes.
often do you eat?
Yeah. I work late, so music sessions tend to go, I tend to get home somewhere between midnight and, well, 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. is the range lately. There's been years where we've worked crazier hours till noon and stuff, but lately it's pretty chill. And so I get up around 9 or 10, and I first thing if it's summertime, I'll make I'll take seeded watermelon and I make sure it's got the black seeds. I throw that in the blender and I drink that as a smoothie, and it's my favorite breakfast in the world. I'll get some sun out on my porch here, and that's the way to start my day. When it's not summertime and there's no watermelons, then I call it like an energy elixir. It's like a um, frozen strawberry, frozen blueberry, maca, lucuma, raw honey, raw almond butter, some dates, some lion's mane, some reishi. Throw it all in the blender, and it's kind of this, frozen cold smoothie that's really refreshing and got some superfoods in it. So that tends to be my breakfast, and that'll get me a few hours. Then I'll usually I have about 5 different recipes that I rotate in and out. I've got a raw soup that I make in the blender. I've got a spirulina salad that I wrap in nori and eat it like a burrito. I've got this raw rice dish that I make that is forbidden rice. Is a rice that you can sprout in water in 24 hours. You just put this forbidden rice. It's the only heirloom rice that I know of that you just soak in water and it'll sprout as if it's been cooked. So you can take that and make any kind of sauce. I make like a cashew pine nut pesto sauce and eat the rice with that, with like zucchini and avocado and sauerkraut and lemon. And I've got all these sauce recipes that I mix and match with all my different recipes. So that'll be my lunch, either the soup or the salad or the rice. And then throughout the day, I'm drinking a chocolate almond milk or a vanilla almond milk from Erewhon. If you guys don't know about Erewhon, it's a great market in LA. They make some of the best cold pressed juices and cold pressed almond milks in the game. And so I'm very lucky to be able to get those every day. So I'll drink a few juices from Erewhon and a few almond milks. And that's really it. I eat basically one meal, one smoothie, and then some kind of snacking in between. And I'm just running on all pistons, man. It's like the less you eat, the better. As long as as long as you've first done the cleansing, because it took me a long time to get to that point. In the beginning, when I first went raw, I would eat a ton of food, and I always felt like I needed more. And it was like kind of this endless pit. And when I started cleansing, I realized, oh, wow, that's my parasites. They're the ones that are hungry, and they're the ones convincing me to eat more. And so that's a process that I'm really grateful I learned about early on. And so that's what's allowed me to sort of over time sort of refine what I eat to a smaller amount. And I think that's the key. You get just way more energy when you're just eating as little as you need to feel full.
Do they still have? It's been a while since I've been to LA, but I used to go out there. Do they still have the amazing farmers markets, Santa Monica and
Yes.
Hollywood? Yeah, they're amazing still.
All over, all over. Yeah, they're going strong. That's one of the things I was worried during COVID, but they've seemed to have all come back full force now.
Back in the day, I used to go to LA and speak at the restaurants actually, and one of my favorite places. It was kind of like a little south of you in Huntington Beach. I think it was a lock.
Olak,
Yeah,
yes, in Fountain
amazing,
Valley.
amazing place.
Yes, I mean, just to shout out to Ito, Chef
Yeah,
Ito, who, if you guys don't know, Chef Ito has
amazing.
been on a vow of silence for over 25 years. This man is like a true Jedi human, and he has invented the best raw bread I've ever had in my life. I believe it's called the chimichurri, and he uses psyllium husk. So this, what would be like a cracker, becomes soft and kind of mushy like bread, and it's incredible. The guy is a genius. Shout
Do they
out
still
to
have?
Ito.
Does he still have a place in LA now? Because I know he opened up
Yep,
a place in LA. I've been there.
yep. Yeah,
That's
the one in
great.
downtown is going strong, and they don't have the bread there, but they got a few other things that are really delicious there. And yeah, that place was a big part of it too. Early on, we'd have. You said you used to speak there. I remember. Uh, oh, man, Lou Corona used to speak all the time down
Yeah.
there, and we'd go down there, bring acoustic guitars and have little jams, and it was a real community, you know. And Olak
Oh
was
yeah.
a big part of that early on.
Yeah. Do you remember Good Mood Food? Was that around?
Never tried
Oh,
that.
yeah, that was pretty amazing. It's just so many great places and very good. So let me ask you, over the years, you've been doing this 14 years. You mentioned a
Yeah,
couple of supplements you take
yeah,
in your superfoods. Like, where
yes,
are you on supplements? Do you pop any
yes.
vitamins or anything like that?
A bit, you know. Recently, I started working out more. I had a back injury last year. I pinched a nerve in my back, and so it was the first major injury I ever had where I realized, okay, I kind of always thought because I eat so healthy, I can kind of skip exercise. I thought I had like a cheat code, but I realized the hard way last year that no, there is no substitute for exercise. So, in doing calisthenics every day for the last year and a half, I did start taking some supplements. Symbiotica makes a great supplement. There's a vitamin C, there's a magnesium, and there's a glutathione. I'd say those are really good supplements. And then, but really, Shilajit has everything you need. Irish sea moss has everything you need. Chlorella. Between those three, Irish sea moss, chlorella, and Shilajit, I mean, that stuff. And then Chinese herbs are great to get. Reishi, chaga, lion's mane, those types of herbs are great to get in your diet. But not as many as I used to. I used to go crazy on the supplements because I used to really think that I needed them. And it was, again, this kind of like endless. They're like, I was like, oh man, when I can afford 10 times the amount of supplements than compared to now, I'm going to take 10 times the amount. You know, it was like, it just was almost this endless list of things. And now I've really refined that and realized that the human body, when you put the right fuel in your body and you learn to, when you find balance with it, your body makes everything that you need. It's mostly that we have too much stress, too much anxiety, and not enough peace of mind, and the body really reacts to that. So a big part of my supplementation is checking in with myself and making sure that I am really doing the inner work on my mindset to know that I have everything that I need. And I really believe that's the most powerful supplement you can take, is believing that your body is so intelligent that it is going to manufacture everything that you need if you put the right fuel in the body that's not going to clog up things and create mucoid plaque and create, traffic jams in your colon and in your intestines. So that's the key. It's like you just want to keep things clean in there and trust that your body's going to make everything. And that's kind of where I'm at lately.
Very good, very good. So, do you ever check your blood work?
No, but I actually have plans to do that this year. So I'm going to have results that I'll be able to sort of hopefully wave and say, look, I'm doing really great. But I've not seen a doctor in 20 years, 17 years, and I've not checked anything of that nature. So it'll be exciting to see.
So, besides how you feel, if you haven't checked your blood work or went to a doctor, how do you know what you're doing is working? Besides how you feel, or is that enough evidence for you?
Yeah, to me, that is the proof is in the pudding. You know, if I, like I keep saying, if I ever wake up and I'm feeling horrible and I'm having aches or I'm low energy or whatever, then that's a sign. But I think, that is the best indicator of health. It's if you're able to do all the things you want to do in a given day and there's no limitations based on your health, then you're doing something right. And I feel like raw food not makes you smarter. That's going to sound wrong, but it 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 helps your brain. Our body runs on electricity. We need salts, we need minerals, and so when you put the right salts and minerals in your body, you're literally like giving your body the electricity it needs. Just like this world, we need electricity. We got power plants and we got power lines, and I kind of think of the inner world the same, runs the same way. And so when you have those things, you feel that like your brain is like the synapses are connecting, and you feel it. And so you start to become really in tune with yourself, and you start to feel when things are working and when they're not. And so that process has led me through changing certain foods in and out. I used to eat a lot. I used to eat more nutritional yeast, and I realized, oh, nutritional yeast is not really raw, and I can feel the difference when I cut that out. And there's been tons of things that I've cut out of my diet over the last 15 years that um, are kind of lower on the raw food list, that are delicious but not the best for you. And as you refine that, you start to feel the subtle changes. And so that's really the barometer for my health, is that process, more than going to a doctor and saying, what do you think? Which can have some merit, especially if you're in a serious situation. I'm not going to sit here and say doctors are useless. But the key is being educated and empowering yourself and learning from people that have done it themselves, as opposed to just going to a doctor in a white coat who has a degree and is going to charge a lot of money to just sell you something that's going to make him a bunch of money and keep you coming back. And it's not really going to get to the root of it. And I think really, cooked food is the root of all like disease in human beings. Like, we're frugivores. There's not a single frugivore on the planet that cooks any of their food. Our intestines match the length of frugivores. Our teeth match the teeth of frugivores. And so raw food is simply just going back to the original diet that who knows how long human beings have existed for. And we've always eaten this way.
Okay, so you said some couple of things there. So first, we don't need a doctor, everybody, to get a blood test. I get blood tests,
Yeah.
but I don't go to a doctor.
Right. Right.
Where we live now, you can get blood tests, pay for the test online and go to local laboratory. Doctor doesn't have to touch anything, and it's
Yes.
so yeah, we don't need that. But let me know when you do get your blood work. I'd love to
Yeah.
know how it's going, because it's a great testimonial if everything's great, and if not, it's a great study for us to learn, like you say, improve and always improve.
Yes.
Now, the other thing I say, without being judgmental, uh, I think sometimes, like when I was in New York City, for example, going to work, and I would be on a train, and like literally, not I would be like the only person on a whole subway car that's not sleeping. And then
Mm.
I'm talking about a full
Hmm.
subway car with hundreds of people.
Hmm.
And I'd be thinking,
Yeah.
gotta be the food. I mean, it's gotta be
Yes.
the food. And
No
it's you
doubt.
ever have moments like that where you see people that are overweight, or people your age that are getting sick, because now you're at the time in your life where your friends from
Yeah.
school, now's the time that people start getting sick. Like, do you
Yeah.
ever realize, like, it's the food? And you gotta find a way, in a non-judgmental way, to let them know, or judge them to lift them up, not knock them down, but you gotta tell them, "Look."
Yes. Yes. The first thing that comes to mind is this meme I saw recently, where it was just a video of a random beach in California in the 1970s. Man, everyone looked fit and tan and healthy, and it looked like it was like a movie set. Like, people had been central casting to be on this beach, perfect shape, but it was not. It was just a random beach. And then, some photos of today, and we all know there's a lot of obesity. There's a lot of people out of shape. And what has changed since then the most is processed food has become, big food, as I call it, is it's almost a monopoly at this point. And from the cereal kids are eating that has heavy metals in it, to these lunchables that are just all chemicals, and really it's poison, all these pesticides. It's insane. And then people, they're feeling sick, they go to the doctor to get this pill, and then that pill affects this, they get a pill for those side effects, and it's this endless process. And it's really sad. And so, yeah, I definitely have a lot of people around me that reach out and ask for advice, and it's definitely very fulfilling to be able to share the wisdom that I've been my own guinea pig for the last 15 years. And so I can really truly say, well, when you have this, it's good to do this. And that's a beautiful thing. I love to be able to help people, just get the right mindset, because it becomes very intuitive and logical and easy to do. Well, I don't want to say easy, but simple to do once you have the right mindset and the right information on food. And so, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I think we're at this really pivotal crossroads right now in humanity, where some of us are going one direction and we're like learning we're going forwards in reverse, if that makes sense. we're going back to the old ways, and clearly they were doing something right in the old days. And then there's the other side, which is, sort of the McDonald's, Walmart, uh, sort of paper thin world that is really on a crash course, excuse me. And I don't think it's not sustainable, and it's going to crash at some point. And that might be a scary thought for some people, but I really think that we're headed toward this wake up call, and people are going to, start flocking to this more and more because it's so simple, and everyone can grow their own food. Even if you don't have a lot of space, you can get vertical gardens now, and you can do things that wouldn't have been possible a long time ago. And I really think that we're headed towards a new renaissance. I think it's going to happen in food. It's going to happen in music. It's going to happen in art. And so I remain optimistic, but yeah, it's crazy. If you go out there and look at your average beach, people are not in shape and people are tired. And that's the number one thing that I would say: try a raw food diet, do some cleansing, get a colonic, do a juice fast, learn to pray, learn to get right with yourself internally, because it's crazy times in the world. And I don't think it's going to get better before it gets worse. And if you're doing the work on yourself, then you're going to be able to just ride through that smooth, and you're going to be able to enjoy the ride. And for some people, unfortunately, it's going to be a real bumpy road.
Did I hear you say earlier that cooked food was not healthy, and that's where it all begins? Or did
Yeah. 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 I believe so. I mean, when you cook food, it destroys the nutritional value, most of the nutritional value of the food. I use this analogy. It's like, imagine you have this beautiful house you love, and you want to, for some reason, move this house a block away. So you're like, okay, great, let's burn the house down. Let's move all the ashes. Way easier to move all the ashes, and then the house will easily get a block away. But it's like, no, the whole point was there was this beautiful house, and burning it down makes it easier to transport it, but then you can't really do much with it at all. And so cooking your food is destroying all of the structure of the food. It's dehydrating the food. It's destroying all the enzymes, and it loses its electrical conductivity. And that's really what our body is fueled by, is, the salts and the minerals is just electricity. And so you're basically putting something in a battery. The human body's a battery that isn't going to charge that battery. It's actually going to deplete from it. And so, yeah, I think there's something to where we are at as a collective humanity, and we're all eating cooked food, and a lot of us are eating meat, which there's a lot of pain and suffering associated with eating meat. A lot of people have never killed an animal and eaten it, prepared it to be eaten themselves. And I think if you have the balls to do that and the strength to do that, then perhaps you've karmically earned the right to eat that meat. I don't think I have it in me to kill an animal and eat it myself. So I stay away from that. And I think there's something when there's a disassociation between what is on your plate and where that thing came from. You become disassociated in so many areas of your life, and you sort of lose touch with reality. And so eating low on the food chain, as I like to call it, eating the raw food diet, it's very simple. You know that this bell pepper was a seed. Someone watered it and it grew, and no one had to suffer as a result of that. And someone picked it and then you ate it, and ideally you were the one that grew it and picked it and ate it. And it really simplifies the food chain, as opposed to these factory farms or these chemical factories making processed, burgers made of genetically modified, who knows what. And so I think one of the solutions for humanity is to really simplify things and get back to the basics. And if we can stop cooking our food, we can finally kind of adopt this mindset of like, everything was made perfect. We were made perfect. The food was made perfect. It doesn't need to be altered. And while it might taste really good, some of the cooked food, it's only making us devolve as opposed to moving forward.
besides the physical side of what comes along with raw food and all the great health benefits, from a social standpoint, do you think that it's way too difficult for everyone to eat an 100% raw food diet?
For everyone, yes. I mean, that's a great question. I mean, I think that the social aspect is the most difficult part about it. A lot of people find it very challenging to kind of go out on their own and forge their own path. And most people really like to kind of follow the main or the herd, so to speak. I don't mean to use that derogatorily, but people like to fit in with groups. And so that is the hardest aspect. So based on understanding human psychology, I would agree that it would be difficult to imagine everyone doing it. But at the same time, I hold this sort of naive optimism that, you know, it's like a snowball. And the more people that come to this and learn to conquer the social aspects of it and learn to really be self-sufficient and be more like of a carry a lone wolf energy, which is required for this, you know, to kind of just be like, I'm doing my own thing. I show up at a party and I've got my cooler bag and I've got my, you know, room temperature bag. People are like, man, what's all that? I'm like, well, I got it all in here. Like, where you want the full tour? I got all my juices. I got my salad wraps, and I've got, you know, some raw chocolate over here, and I've got some superfoods over here. And so not everyone is going to be that personality type where they really get into this and have fun with it, and they're not embarrassed about the fact that they're different than everyone else. But at the same time, the more of us that do that, we inspire people to do that, and there is a snowballing effect that happens. So maybe not everyone, but I could see a time where this really hits the mainstream and becomes really popular. And because it is so legitimately incredible, the way that everyone's going to feel when they get on this, I could see it happening where people really, the majority of people are eating a raw vegan diet. I could imagine it. You know, call me a naive optimist, but I'm just going to stay there.
Okay, so when it comes to cooked food and raw food, there's different levels of both. Let's look at cooked food first. Do you think all cooked food is equally bad, or do you think some, if somebody has to cook, do you think some is
Right.
less worse than others?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really experimented with that myself, but I would say, sort of just thinking logically, you know, if you're going to steam some broccoli, you know, that's probably a lot better than, you know, pan frying some potatoes, you know, in some oil, you know. So there's definitely a spectrum. Um, and but I haven't really gone down that road to try any sort of like steamed veggies or something light to really see how that feels. But it's kind of obvious, you know. You could tell that if it's not getting the direct heat from a pan and it's just getting the all the steam is going to hydrate the food, so it's going to put back in the water that the food is cooking out. So I'm sure there are levels to it. um, and really that's the most important thing, is being hydrated. Like if you have all the salts and minerals but you're dehydrated, you know, water needs minerals in it to be conductive. You know, if you were to, I believe this is correct, if you were to have a bathtub, you know, they say don't put the blow dryer by the bathtub, but if you had distilled water in that bathtub, I believe it wouldn't conduct anything. It needs to have minerals in it for that circuit to be closed. And so in our body, it's the same way. We have so much salt in our body, and we need to be hydrated so that that water is like the channel that moves the current. Um, and so, yeah, that's being hydrated. If you're gonna do some cooked food, try steaming it.
Yeah, that's what I meant. So for people that aren't ready to go here socially, at least we could teach them, look, at least make these changes, you know, like steam
Yes,
it instead of
yes,
like instead of eating an animal, go steam some vegetables, you know, or something
yes.
like that. And
Exactly. And whole foods, really just think of things in simple terms, and just eat things that came from a whole food, you know?
sure.
Um, and that's a good place to start.
Now, on a level of raw foods, there's also different levels because what I find is a big difference between raw food and living foods. So I'm a big into
Hmm.
sprouting and live foods and
Hmm.
microgreens. So have you experimented with that?
Yeah. I haven't gone heavily into it, but I do eat sprouts often. I put them in my salad that I make. I love broccoli sprouts, are probably my favorite. Um, and yeah, and I do a lot of fermented foods. I love fermented sauerkraut is one of my favorite things that'll heal your gut microbiome in an instant if you're having issues with your gut. And I put lemon juice in everything, all of my recipes, because that super alkaline forming. And if anyone has, they're like, oh, well, I tried the raw food, but my gut was this, I felt heavy or I felt whatever. Just add some lemon juice or some either sauerkraut itself or even the water that's in the sauerkraut container. That fermented water in there is so powerful. And then, yeah, um, combining that with sprouts, man, those things are packed with nutrients. It's unbelievable. People don't even realize. I think like a broccoli sprout has something like it's either 50 or 100 times the amount of nutrition as just regular broccoli. I mean, it's really
Yeah,
staggering.
it's amazing. It really is.
Yeah.
Electricity that you get, it's quite amazing. It's like if somebody gets a cell phone and the battery's like not a good battery, that's the first thing a person would complain about. They were like, this cell phone,
Yes.
forget about all the features, forget about how it looks. The battery doesn't last long. It's the same thing
That's
with raw
right.
food. I mean, the battery lasts longer when you're eating raw food. It's because there's less
Literally.
power it's using to do what you're doing. So on that
Yes.
note, to recharge your batteries, how much sleep did you need before you went raw, and how much sleep do you usually get now? And I know a lot
Yeah.
of people say this, like myself, like I work much harder now, so I still need more sleep. But I know
Right.
some other people that are like, I need so much less sleep. So what about you?
Yeah.
What's your story?
Yeah, mine's somewhere in the middle. I mean, I used to sleep 12 hours a day. I used to wake up at 2 p.m. I was living the kind of typical musician's lifestyle and not thriving at all. And when I went raw, I think my sleep went down to like 7, 8 hours was like a sweet spot. But I can go, many days in a row getting 5, 6 hours sleep and be fully functional and great. I wouldn't recommend that for the long term without having a few days of recovery where you get in the I think 7, 8 hours is the ideal amount of sleep. But that's all based on, the sleep patterns that we do in society. I mean, I've read about people who really believe in not having long extended sleep and doing power naps throughout the days that I've heard, Leonardo da Vinci slept this way and all kinds of people throughout history that really swore by different sleep patterns. But, if you're going to just go with this typical sleep pattern, which is what I do and practice, I think, yeah, for me, it's been like, I can do 5 to 6 for many days in a row, and then I catch up with like an 8 hour. 8 hours is like full reset.
Sure, sure. Very good information, man. And so nice to meet you. You've been doing this for 15 years now, and
Yeah,
it's exciting, and it's keep in touch. And everybody, if you want to check out more and hear more about Daniel, connect with him. I'm going to put his Instagram link below. And especially if you're in the LA area, I don't know if he's doing any meetups and stuff, but a lot of groups out there, a lot of people still doing it out there, and it makes it easier, especially when you're making a change. So Daniel, tell us what now like is your favorite restaurant? But I know back in the day there were many, but what's
yes,
around now and what do you
yes,
do now?
yeah. So Wild Living Foods, I would say, shout out. They're holding the torch right now. Do you remember Giuliano's Planet
Yep,
Raw?
yep.
So basically, when that place went out, the people that started Wild Living Foods went and gathered all the chefs from Planet Raw and brought them over to their place. And so Wild Living Foods has basically 70% of the Giuliano's Planet Raw menu is there available with a few tweaks, but it's basically the same menu there. So that's my favorite spot. They've got raw ice cream, which is incredible. They've got raw kelp noodle pasta that's incredible. They've got jalapeno poppers. They've got the walnut burger, which is kind of similar to the burgers they had at Rawvolution with the onion bread. So that place is definitely my go-to. I probably hit that once a week, once every other week. It just depends. Sometimes I hit it twice a week, but I try to make most of my own food. But yeah, Wild Living Foods is definitely the number one spot to just eat some really delicious gourmet raw vegan food. And then Erewhon is the next in line. I mean, that I hit every day. Their cold pressed juices, their nut milks. They have, depending on which Erewhon you go to, they have a few sort of gourmet prepared raw food items. But really just I go there for the produce and their cold press stuff. And then Olak, they have the downtown location, they have the Fountain Valley location, and then oh yeah, a new place I just discovered is called Raw Cane Super Juice, and it's sort of in East Hollywood, and they have a cold pressed cane, presser, which I don't know if you've ever seen these machines. They're huge, they're super heavy, and man, drinking raw cane juice with, they put the passion fruit seeds in there. I mean, you're just like, you're on an island, you're in heaven. It's the most delicious thing. So yeah, there's still a few spots going strong, and hopefully more will keep popping up.
Now, in your own house, do you have a juicer and juice on a regular basis?
I just got actually my first cold press juicer. I just bought a Nama J2 juicer.
Best juicer on the market.
Shout out to Jillian Barry. She got me the discount. Thank you, Jillian. And but my main tool for the last 15 years is my Vitamix. Really, I think that's all you need is a Vitamix and a salad bowl and some, just the basics. You can make so much with a Vitamix. And then if you want to go to the next level and make your own juice, make your own nut milks, make your own dressings, then having a food processor or a cold press juicer is the ultimate.
All right, man. That's great. That's great. Again, everybody, I'm gonna put Daniel's link below, his Instagram link, if you want to connect with him. If anyone does want to get the Nama J2 juicer, I'll put a link below. I can get you a discount, just Paul 10
awesome.
if you want to get it 10% off, Paul 10 when you order it. And this is so great, man. Just keep up the great work, and
likewise.
It's great to meet people who have been doing this a long time. So I'm glad we're connected, and thanks for being on the show, man.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say it's an inspiration to see someone like yourself doing it. I'm at your midway point. I'm at 15 years, you're at 30 years, and you look great. You seem to have really clear energy, high energy. So it's a good indicator of, where I'm headed, and appreciate you having me on. So I'm looking forward.
Absolutely, brother. You
chatting more.
Great work. Yeah. All right.
Awesome,
thank you.
Paul.
All right, everybody. Check out the comments and put your comments below. And thanks for watching. Have a great day, everybody, and a great raw life.
Nature's wealth, good for your health. This is the Raw Life Health Show. Raw Life, brighten up your life.